Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for being here. Today we have Martha, and we will talk about parenting, why kids misbehave, what can we do as parents, and all good things that we can learn from Martha. So she's the expert. Let's say hi to Martha. Hello.
Hello, everybody. Glad to be here.
Good, good. Yeah, so do I. I'm really happy and I can't wait to chat with you. So let's just start from the beginning. Let just tell us a bit about misbehaving and why children do misbehave.
Well, that's such a great question, Roxandra. But you know what? Children have goals. And, and especially these days, you're getting a lot of children who are desperate for attention because parents are so busy on their phone or with their entertainment or working or whatever, and the child doesn't get any attention. So now children are constantly needing more attention because of our new, I guess, digital society. But yes, children have goals of misbehavior, and one of them definitely is attention. And if you don't get attention for the right behavior, you're going to get attention for the wrong behavior. And whatever you get attention, you give attention to increases. So if
Hmm.
you attend to your child every time they misbehave, oh, you're going to get lots more misbehavior. And in fact, somebody on Facebook just asked her 2-year-old, um, when she says no to her, gets very upset. But see, what happens is the child will be doing something, and mom will yell no across the room. No, that doesn't work. You need to get up. You need to go to the child, look her right in the eye, hold her little hands, and say, no, we don't do that, sweetheart. Here's what you can do. No, I don't want you to do this, but here's what you can do. Let's do this instead. See, what happens is a lot of times we say no, 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 but the child has no idea what they can do. Well, what can I do? They're only
Hmm.
2 or 4 or 8, or no, it doesn't matter their age. Don't run in the house. Well, what exactly does that mean? Can I tiptoe? Can I jog? Can I run real quick? Can I run slow? What do you mean by don't run in the house? Can I scoot on my butt? Can I crawl real fast? So saying no or don't, we're all confused. If somebody said to me, Martha, don't watch TV. Okay, but I got a gazillion computers. So can I get on my phone? Can I, so
Yeah.
give enough information. No, don't watch the television, but you can get on your phone for 10 minutes between here and there. No, you can't watch TV now, but you can watch TV at this time or this TV show. So we have to learn to be more specific. We're so general all the time. And then we wonder why our kids are so confused. Oh, I got to tell you another story. Alexandra, I had a student when I was teaching child psychology. Her son was 2. He put his shoes in the microwave and
Oh,
she
wow.
spanked him. She spanked him. I said, why'd you spank him? She said he did a bad thing. I said, he has seen you put a gazillion things in that microwave. Weird things. Stuff in boxes, stuff in plastic, stuff in bowls. Who knows why he put his shoes? He just did what he saw you do a gazillion times. And then he got a spanking and he's still confused. Okay, so he can't. All right, so I guess maybe he might think, okay, my shoes don't go in there, but do my socks, do my pants, does my shirt, does my that? So the child got a
Yeah.
spanking for what? And who learned anything? And it really, and what do you do every time you hit your children? You destroy your relationship with them because the child thinks I'm not safe around this adult. If I do the wrong thing, they're going to hit me, and then they're constantly scared. Well, what's the wrong thing? Especially if parents are have anger management problems and drug addiction problems.
Wow. Thank you so much. It's so much that you just gave us there. Thank you. Attention, I think, is the number one currency in globally at the moment. I think even for us, not just for kids, I think it's more than money and anything else. We all need and want attention. Look at the social
Definitely.
medias. They want us to be there. They want us to be on Facebook, on YouTube. They don't want you to leave the platform. So here you go,
Right.
TikTok. So definitely attention, it's a big, big, big factor. And you also mentioned about giving distractions in a way and tell them what they can do. I love that part, and in a positive manner, because we hear no so many times. And this was my toddler is 2.5. So I remember probably around 1, he turned 1, and then he's starting doing things, exploring things. And me and my husband, we sat there for a few weeks and we're just saying, we are saying no so often. Bless him. Like, no, 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 no. And we have to change that. And we talked about it. And I know it's hard, but it is possible. And it's a huge difference. It's a huge difference, like you said. That's brilliant.
And
Now, obviously,
a lot of this is in my book. I talk about all of this in my book, just 60 pages, and it just tells you, boom, 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 here's what you do. And with your children so young, I'm sure you and your husband got down on your hands and knees and crawled around that house because if there's a little staple on the floor or whatever, your baby will find it. So, if you're the parent of young children, get down on your hands and knees, crawl around that house, find every outlet, find it, because the kids are going to find it.
mm-hmm,
So, or find get a child just to look around the whole house, get a little relative or somebody to find these things for you because you don't want to be surprised. Because yes, children are going to explore. And just like you said, Roxandra, we're always saying no at that age. No, no, no. Well, we need to set up boundaries for the child, places where they can't go. Sweetheart, you can't go there. You have to stay here. The baby gates, that's what they're for.
yeah, absolutely. And I love when you mention about hitting. Obviously, the way I've been raised, I was a lucky one. My parents never slapped me, not at all. So definitely that's something I'm not going to do to my kids neither. And you mentioned how damaging that is in a trust and a safe. Just talk with us a bit more because I know it's different how you've been raised or 20, 30 years ago. But how can, let's say, some parents, they cannot control that? What's the best advice for them?
Well, if you have a problem hitting your child, that's definitely a problem.
Mm,
And you need to get some help for that because that's damaging the relationship. And it's also damaging your self-esteem and your thoughts as a parent. And so you really want to get control of that because anytime you have uncontrolled anger like that, it's one thing to get mad and to have a fit. I do it all the time, but I don't do it in front of anybody. I go up in my room, I have my little fit. I don't have it in front of anybody. But when you take your problems and put them on other people, even if the child did do something, my dog does stuff all the time. I'm always aggravated. Oh, I got to take you out again. No, I got to this. Oh, I got to that. It's annoying, little annoyances all day long, which is what children pretty much do because they're always demanding something, and we have to respond because we're the adults. They can't. A lot of times they can't do it themselves. But we need to grow up. That's a problem. What you're talking about, Roxandra, is a problem of people not learning how to say no to themselves. And that's why we have to work. That's something I talk about in my book too. People who never learn to say no to themselves become adults who are very unpleasant and they
mm,
blame everybody else for everything. So if you're blaming your children for how you feel, that's a problem. It's not your child, it's how you interpret what the child does. A lot of people live through their children or think that their child's behavior reflects on them. Well, it's not for you to be concerned about what other people think. What you're concerned about is your child being raised to be a responsible, caring human being. Children who are hit a lot are so worried about being hit and self-protection that they can't become empathetic and caring for others. They're too worried about themselves. Doesn't mean they're selfish. It means that they're scared. So we don't want
yeah.
to raise your children. Now, then again, all right, let me tell you this story. We never hit our son. We never hit our son. I did not believe in that. Well, my mother, he went out with my mom and my mother-in-law when he was about 3 or 4. He was still in a diaper, so he must have been 2.5, 3. And they went to the park. Well, he wouldn't listen because he was spoiled. And we learned how to say no, but at that time. So my mother came back and she said, I had to swat him on his behind. I said, Mom, we don't hit him. It was really just more to get his attention. It was just a swat, like, listen to what I'm saying to you because he wouldn't listen. She said he wouldn't listen. I had to get his attention. Sometimes just not a hit, but a mild little touch or swat to get their attention. It was on his diaper, so I'm sure it didn't hit him, but it got his attention. So, sometimes if you're in that kind of a situation, you don't know what else to do. But usually, if you hit your children, it's because you're in a bad mood or you're frustrated or you're annoyed and you don't know what else to do about the behavior.
Yeah, and the same thing goes back into shouting. And I think that makes them be scared as well, isn't it? So let's talk a bit about that. The way we raise our voice, that's going to be the language that they will use later on as well, right? This is when they, okay, I'm only, tell,
Yeah.
tell us your perspective on it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I have to tell you a story about my dog. Because my son's 42 now, so I can't tell you stories about him. Except for when he was younger. But anyway, the other day, the dog, I was going to take him for a walk, and I have two dogs, and usually I take the more agreeable one first. But this time I thought, you know what? I know usually I take him first because he's the big bully, and I thought, no, I'm going to take the nicer dog first. Well, he refused. Banshee said, no, I'm going. I'm going. And he would not let me open the door. And I just didn't know what to do. And the next thing you know, I'm screaming, get back, get back. It made absolutely no difference. And I know better. I know better. So yes, sometimes you know what, with young children, you don't know what else to do. They get into stuff, it's scary. You're going to raise your voice here and there, but you know what? Think about it. I finally thought to myself, you know what? Look, Martha, I think you can outsmart this dog. So stop yelling and think of a solution. So I think that's a good suggestion for parents too. Okay, I can outsmart this child, or I can figure out a solution here without yelling and screaming because it got us nowhere. It got me nowhere, it got him nowhere. And because I was yelling and screaming, I couldn't think. I couldn't
Yeah.
think what to do. So it's only when you calm down and say, all right, wait a minute, what exactly needs to be done here? What does the child need? What do I need? Why is the child misbehaving? Attention is one thing. A lot of children want power because if they're in a household where they don't have any power, they try to be powerful. Well, you can tell the child wants power because you feel angry. So usually if you feel angry, that's when you yell and scream. Now then some children, let's see, the goals are attention, power, um, revenge. When a child
Oh,
wants revenge, you feel hurt. And then that's how you know the child's goal is revenge. Now, if you have a household where you're frequently talking about, I'm going to get you for that, or you, can you believe they did that? I can't believe they did that to me, blah, blah, blah. Well, you're going to have a child who's going to think about revenge a lot, and they're going to try to get revenge. And then you're going to be feeling hurt all the time. And then the absolute, I guess, the saddest one is when when you feel hopeless, when a child says things like, oh, I just can't do that. And you want to give up because you're like, oh, I guess you just can't do that, honey. Well, you can't do that. When a child is that um, dis discouraged,
mm,
you really have to tread lightly and reinforce every single little step to the goal. So you have to stop all criticism. I mean, these are very nuanced. You know what I mean? You really have to learn how to identify
yeah.
things like
Wow.
power,
But
feelings, and everything.
let's go back to what you said earlier on power, because I'm there as well. My toddler, he's showing to me that he wants to get that power. And it's quite funny sometimes because I notice that, and like you said, if because he's pushing every single button that we have, right? So I'm trying not to get angry, and sometimes I'm just, oh, exploding inside.
Hmm.
And I feel like he's very stubborn in a way. But it's it's a case of he's very independent, right? So he wants to do everything by himself, like cooking, for example. Since he was very young, we used to cook together. Since he was a baby, he was washing potatoes and he was helping me. And now he got to a stage when he wants to prepare the eggs for him by himself. But obviously it's dangerous, so I can't let him, you know with the pan, with the frying pan, but he wants to do it. So now going back to the power, what would you say? What would be the first few things we can do as parents instead of fighting for power? How can we give them the power in a way, or even just for them to feel they are in control?
Right. Well, the child, this is all natural. This is natural. The child has to grow up, has to learn how to do things independently. Unfortunately, it puts them in situations that are dangerous for us, and we have to really tiptoe around that. So, it's the same thing as well. You can, as you have been doing already, give him jobs he can do. Try to let him experiment as much as possible, which you're already doing, but you're always, and you have to say to him, no, I can't let you do that. You can do this. No to this, yes to that. So, for every no, you have to have a yes. No, you can't do that. But here, why don't you do this? Here, why don't you do that? So try that.
Fantastic. That's really, really cool. And then the revenge. Oh, I haven't been there yet because they are very young, but I can imagine. I work with moms in business and I have clients and they are telling me stories about their kids. And it's a very, very dark place to be
Yes,
in
and
that
it's very
fight.
hurtful. It's
Mm,
hurtful because then the parents feel hurt, like, oh my goodness, I love you. I've done everything I can for you, and you do these things to me. Yes, it's very, very frightening. And and I talk about that in my book, and also I have a parenting course where we really delve into that, where you really get control of your children's behavior. Because who's in charge? Parents are in charge. We have to be in charge. But children have to grow up and become independent, caring, and empathetic human beings.
I love that.
I
So
see your
we
little
are in
buddies like
charge. How how can we be in charge? I mean, that's the thing. I mean, sounds really silly, but I'm telling that to my husband, like, you are in control. You are in charge, you know? Like, yeah, he doesn't want to, like, well, I don't really care. You are the parent. Like, for us, it's about sweets because he just started discovering sugar, which obviously we
Uh-oh.
tried to avoid
Uh-oh.
as much as we could. We started going to different parties, and yeah, it's my fault. I have to admit it. I really want it. So he's not drinking any juice and nothing at all, but he started eating cake for parties. And now because he knows that, obviously he wants more of, which I'm
Yeah.
very strict about. But my husband is the one who's like, okay, here you go, a Barney or whatever. And I'm not happy with that. So now obviously he got to a stage when my son always goes to him and it's asking for sweets. Clever,
Yeah.
right? So this
Clever.
is when he turns back to me and he's like, so what do I do? I'm like, well, you are in control, you are in charge. Tell him the reason why not, why it's not good for him, and then give him a fruit or give him something else, if you know. And yeah, tell us about that. So how can we do that in a better way?
Well, for one thing, each parent is a different person, so they're going to respond to the children differently. And yes, so there are some things that you don't really like that your spouse does with the child, and you think they should be, more strict or less strict or whatever. There's a lot of things you're just going to have to mind your own business. There's some stuff you have to talk over and say, you know what, we're never going to hit him. We're not going to scream and yell at him. But there are some things, just like dad gives him sweets. Okay, you don't like it, but what are you, the watchdog? You know what I mean? And then that destroys your marital relationship. So you have to decide, on which hill you're going to stand. So a lot of things you just have to be like, I really don't like that. Like my mom giving the kid a little swat on the bottom. I don't really like that, but you know what? I wasn't there. She
Mhm.
raised me. I came out okay. So, you have to give trust to your spouse and you have to not micromanage and let them have their relationship with the child. So if he gives the kid sweets and you don't, well then just mind your business, unless it's like all day long or something, but I'm sure it isn't. So you have to really think about, okay, is this worth me causing a rift in my marital relationship for? What are our plans with the kid? You know how like dads will do like crazy things with kids. I mean, they're like, okay, yeah, more speed, let's go faster, like, and moms are like, well, there are a lot of things that's what dads are for. And the same thing, like your daughter was probably a lot easier as a toddler than your son. Your son's probably much more exploratory and does a lot more crazy kind of things. And and then so we have to uh, give give leeway for the differences between boys and girls, for one thing.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, also don't micromanage in your household your spouse's behavior. Let them be who they are to your children, and you be who you are to their children. It's only when there's abuse or real problems that you really need to interfere. You could tell dad, look, don't give him any sweets because we're having dinner in 2 hours. You can have the rules like that, but sometimes he's like, "Get out of here, kid! You bug me. Here's a piece of candy."
Wow, I love that. Thank you so much. I think it's the first time when I hear that because I've been a teacher before, and all I thought it was a case of, oh, the parents, they need to be on the same page. They need to be in the same team, the way they raise the kids. And I had that in my mind all the time. And now when I see that we are so different in so many ways. Yes, we do have the same values and principles, like the main ones, but different things, we do in a way. So I'm like, okay, I love it. Thank you so much. Definitely, I will start implementing that. I will be like, okay, here you go. I do give
And
them time one-to-ones and everything, and I really step out completely. Like I let them
great,
to be.
that's great.
Now let's talk about lies because I do have lots of moms and their kids are teenagers or towards teenage years, and they are facing this issue with lying. What would you say? What's the best approach we can?
Well, that's an age where they're starting to have their own lives, and I boy, this is a really tough one because there's a line between I need my privacy, I'm growing up, and what's dangerous. So, yeah, you make a really good point here. And teenage years are tough for everybody. So,
Wow. Okay, so what can we do? Because we do have that communication open, right? And we do want them to come to us whenever they have a problem. But why are they lying?
well, and then also, okay, number one, a parent can't, I can't be your best bud because I'm your parent, but I can be a person you can trust with a problem. So that's a very fine line, and you have to decide how you're going to handle that, especially with teenagers. Um, I suggest you find out who all your teens' friends are. Have a party at your house every once a month. Invite your friends over. Let's so you can meet everybody. At that age, I would not let I I wouldn't let them do sleepovers. That's for sure. Make sure that you know where your kids are at all times. Of course, now with phones and everything, you know that. But get to know who your kids' friends are. Do not let them be playing, especially the young teenage years. It shouldn't be until they're 16 or 18 that they have devices where they can, and even
Hmm.
16 is kind of young because you don't know who's on the other end of that game. So you should really be able to get into your child's phone and devices and everything. I don't know. We're getting at a funny age here because I was pretty much grown up by the time I was 15. So yeah, life
Yeah,
is
wow.
different. And this
Thank you
is
so much. A lot to think about, absolutely.
yeah.
So, Marta, now let's go back to your mastering child behavior. Tell us more about the course. Tell us what parents can get out of it and why should someone think and consider doing such a course.
It's 4 weeks on Zoom. We have an hour a week on Zoom. We have worksheets and things, and we discuss, your child and your problems exactly. And what the whole purpose, it's only 4 weeks because we're going to solve the worst problems. We're going to solve that worst problem. If we can't get it completely eradicated, we're going to make a big dent in it. By the time 4 weeks is over, you're going to have a new relationship with your child. Things are going to be much better. You're going to have a more cooperative child. This is the exact same behavior I used when my son was 4 to turn him around, and it's the same information. A lot of it's in the book, but it's the same information that I used on my high school students. I had one student, she absolutely hated my guts.
Oh, wow. Okay, tell us that story then.
I turned her around. I turned her around so well that within a month, she was having lunch with me and telling me what all the other kids were doing and who was planning to misbehave and do what. So within a month, I had her on my side. So
Yeah.
yes, so we can certainly help you get control of your children within a month. Because We are the adults.
I love that. Martha, thank you so much. We'll put the links as well because you have the book. Yes, you can raise happy, responsible children that you can find on Amazon. Very affordable. And like you said, it's like boom, boom, boom. Here you go. What to do in a supermarket, what to do in a playground, what to do, right? So, very easy and practical things that parents can do. So, thank you ever so much. Is there a final message you'd like to leave our audience with?
Just one day at a time. It's all going to work out. It's all going to work out.
That's brilliant. I love it. Well, thank you, everyone. This was all from today. Keep on smiling, keep on shining, and go and join Supermom's Magic Circle group. We are moms in business there, and we can support each other and we can grow together. So come and join the Facebook group. And this is all from today. You take care. Keep on shining, keep on smiling. Bye.
Bye.